Hello everyone, welcome back again. In this video, we are going to solve equations using radicals. We are going to go through 4 different examples. I'm going to explain you step by step on how to solve these type of equations. So let's get started. For our example number 1, we have x minus 3 square root of x minus 4, notice that this 4 is outside of the square root, equal to 0. Okay, the first thing that we have to notice is that we have a square root. We don't have any index here, so automatically will be 2. The first step to solve equations involving radicals is to let the term that has the radical by itself in one side. Okay? Notice that this term does not have a square root. This one does not, this one does not. So this term has to be by itself in one of the sides. One option that we have is that we can move this x and this negative 4 onto the other side, leaving it by itself. But that would be 2 steps, right? Option 2 is that if I move all of this term into the other side, that will be 1-step process, which is better. So let's do that. Let's move this term, which is negative, onto the other side. Remember, when you move something from one side to another, you do the opposite. This term is subtracting, right? So the opposite will be addition. So we're going to add 3 square root of x into both sides. So we're going to have, so this term minus and plus cancels. So we are left with x minus 4 because this cancels out. So we are left with x minus 4 equals 0. This one should be plus, right? 0 plus the 3 square root of x. The 0 basically doesn't count, so we have 3 square root of x. Now we have the term with the square root by itself. That's our first goal. After that, we are going to get rid of this square root, okay? Notice that our index automatically is 2. So to get rid of an index of 2, we have to introduce an exponent or a power onto both sides. Remember, it's everything, all of this side and all of this side. And we are going to put each side to the power of whatever index do we have here. In this case, we have 2, so our power or exponent will be 2. For the case that these were like 3 or 4, then we use 3 or 4 here. Now we have 2 different terms to the power of 2. So we have to expand x minus 4 to the power of 2, okay? And this one as well. But notice, we have a 3 outside and then a square root of x. We have a number and a letter. This power 2 is for both of them. For that 3 and also for the radical as well. Don't forget. That means that we have 3 power 2 and a square root of x to the power 2. So in this case we have 3 to the power 2, that will be 9, right? Now notice, this power 2 with this index, same power, cancels out. It's gone. So we are left with this x that is next to this 3 that is also power 2, which will make it only x. Do not put power 2 because the power 2 cancel out with this index. So we are left with whatever is inside here, which is basically just x. So that'll make it 9x. Now in the left side, we have x minus 4 power 2. That basically means we are going to multiply whatever is inside the parentheses twice by itself. And we're going to do what is called FOIL. Okay? So we're going to multiply x times x times negative 4, and then we're going to apply the second round, negative 4 times x, and negative 4 times negative 4. Okay? So let's do it. Let's start with x. We're going to multiply the first term of the other multiplication, right? So x times x, that will give us x squared. And this x is also going to multiply the other term of the other multiplication. So x times negative 4, remember, positive multiplied by negative, we get a negative 4x. Now we're going to go to the second round. Negative 4 multiplied x, negative 4x. Again, negative times positive, it's a negative. And then finally, negative 4 multiplied by negative 4, remember, negative times negative, that give us positive 16. And bring down the 9x from earlier. Now let's see if we could combine like terms, okay? Notice that we have these two like terms right here, right? So we have x squared. Notice here we have minus 4x, minus 4x. Both are negative. We add them and we keep the negative sign. So 4 plus 4 is ax and keep the negative sign. And bring the rest down. Now we have a quadratic equation, correct? Yes. In order to solve a quadratic equation, we have to bring everything into one side and set the quadratic equation equal to 0. That means that we have to bring this 9x onto the other side. It's important that to keep the x squared term positive, right? So notice that in this case, it's positive on the left side, so keep it there, right? So we're gonna move this to this side instead. Now we have 9x, it's automatically positive. So to move it to the other side, we do the opposite, right? Which is negative. And then 9x is going to combine with the other term with x from the left side. So this cancels. And we have x squared again, right? We have a negative and a negative. We add and keep the negative sign. So that will be minus 17x plus 16 equal to 0. Now, from an equation with two radicals, we ended up with a quadratic equation in which we could solve it either by quadratic formula, by factoring, or by completing the square. Let's try to solve this quadratic equation using factoring, okay? Remember, since this one started with only x squared, we could do straight factorization. We need two numbers that multiplied equals 16, and when we combine these two numbers, we get negative 17. So, as you might know already, for 16, we have different type of factors, right? We could do 4 times 4, we could do 2 times 8, we also could do 16 times 1. Notice, we need negative 17, right? That means, and 16 is positive, so that means that both numbers have to be negative. Negative 4 times negative 4 give you positive 16, but when we combine them, does not give us negative 17. Let's go to the next one, 2 times 8. If we add them, both negative numbers, right, we're gonna get negative 10. Now, notice this one, 16 times 1, so that means that negative 16 times negative 1 give us 16. And when we combine them, negative 16 minus 1, we get negative 17. That means that those are gonna be our factors. And both negative, because we want to get negative 17 and also positive 16. Negative 16 times negative 1, positive 16. Negative 16 minus 1, minus 17x. So we're good to go. Now, the next step is to set each factor equal to 0. And then we solve for x. That means that we could move this 16 to the other side and we are done. When we move it, right, from negative, it's gonna be positive. And same thing here. When we move this negative 1 to the other side, we do the opposite, right? So plus 1, we're gonna end up with x equals 1. Now, those supposed to be our two solutions, but be careful. Here is when we need to do an extra final step. Our final step is going to be the checking step. We need to check if these two solutions are correct, because sometimes only one of them could work. So let's do a checking on that one. Let's check. Let's check both solutions. Let's start with x equals 16. And we're gonna plug in 16 into our original equation. Okay, so we're gonna plug in 16 in here and see if that give us 0 at the end. So let me copy that equation. Okay, so let's plug in 16, right? Let's see. Let's do the operation of the square root of 16 first, right? So we have 16 minus 3. Remember that this 3 is going to multiply whatever the square root of 16 is. In this case will be 4, right? Then minus 4 equals 0. We have 16 minus 3 times 4, that gives us 12. Minus 4 equals 0. And indeed, 16 minus 12 is 4. Minus 4 is 0. So that checks out. So 16 is one of our solutions. Let's try to check now x equals 1. Let's plug in 1 into the original equation. So we have 1 minus 3 times square root of 1 minus 4 equals 0. Let's see, we have 1 minus 3 times square root of 1. Well, the square root of 1 is just 1. Minus 4 is 0. Let's see, we have 1 minus 3 minus 4. Oops, look at here. We have 1 minus 3, that is minus 2, minus 4 equals 0. Notice, minus 2 minus 4, that gives us minus 6. Remember, add both negative and keep the negative sign. Notice, negative 6 is not equal to 0, right? So that means that x cannot be 1. So that this is not part of our solution. Our only solution is x equals 16.